Taking all four Gospels and kind of putting them together as a segment, a progress. We're telling the story again. And my hope in this is that as we go through the Gospels again, that we will catch the sense of the gospel message, that it will come alive again, that we'll catch the vision and the mission and the heartbeat of Jesus with a new and invigorating passion again. So we've been doing that in the evening services. I hope you haven't missed all of those. Had some great times going through this. But this one I wanted to pull this message for this morning, pull this out for us today in Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9 verse 35 through 38. It says, "Then Jesus went about all the cities and the villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered like sheep, having no shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray the Lord of the harvest to send our laborers into his harvest.'" And it's in this text, it's as if Matthew just kind of pauses the action in the story, and he gives us this compelling look into the heartbeat of Jesus. You know, when Jesus walked this planet some 2,000 years ago, he walked in a physical body, and so he was going around, going different places. He was with the people, moving about, and this is Jesus modeling ministry for us. This is the idea of ministry, that he was out there, and never did he wait and sit back for people to come to him. He was always out there looking for that one, looking for those individuals that he could minister to. Nowhere in the Bible does it command those that are lost without Jesus to come to the church. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you have to go to church if you don't know Jesus and find him there. But it does command us to go out into the highways and the byways to compel those to come in and come to Jesus. And every study on this yields the same basic results. It's held true for the last several decades, that the most effective way to get someone to come to church is a personal invitation, by far and away. That is the most effective way to bring someone to church. And we can advertise and put stuff in the paper, we can put stuff everywhere we can put it, but the number one way that what people respond to is when someone says, "Hey, will you come to church with me?" Easter Sunday's 2 weeks away. And Easter is one of those times when people are a little more open to maybe an invitation, a little more willing to come with us. And if they have the little kids, that's an extra draw when we do the Easter egg hunt. What's the worst thing that could happen? Will you invite someone to come with you?
Yeah, let's go to church. I'm Jewish. What are you saying? What's wrong with me? Yeah. Just yesterday I was thinking I wanted to get up really early in the morning, go hear stories about old dead guys. Dude, let's do it. Let's knock it out. Yeah, totally. Let me check my calendar and make sure I'm cleared for that. Delete. Yeah, dude, let's go to church. Let's party it up at church. What? What? I should invite him to church. I mean, what can happen? Hey, you want to check out church with me on Sunday? Cool.
What's the worst that could happen to you if you invited someone to church? I think sometimes we build that up in our mind, you know, and there's a figure that I said has stayed constant, the personal invitation, but also another one is that 45% of born-again Christians have never shared their faith or invited someone to church. 45% in the last 12 months. 45% of those that call themselves born-again Christians. Now, the good news I hear there is that 55% of folks do that. But, you know, as we look at these statistics, evangelicals are more likely to share their faith than other denominations. The Midwestern adults are the least likely, 41% to share their faith. Whites are less likely than other ethnic groups to share their faith. 49% versus 63%. But all these statistics, there's only one statistic that really matters, is when is the last time that you invited someone to come to church with you? That's the statistic that matters. And if we truly are Christ followers, then we will have the same mission and the same passion and the same drive that Jesus has. And his passion in Luke 19:10, he said, "This is it. I came to seek and to save that which was lost." That's the passion of Jesus. That's the heartbeat. That's what he was about. And if you're a Christian, you will care about, you will think about, you will be concerned with what it is that Jesus cares about, what it is that concerns him. And that's bringing people to Jesus. You know, to think about the people that you know and to say, where will they spend eternity? Where will they spend the rest of their eternal life? And you know, my goal today, as we go back through and take another look into this, my goal today is to establish an awareness and a concern, a compelling belief that the people that are all around us, that are in our circle of influence, what we talk about so often, our circle of influence, that those people are our responsibility, our mission field. That God planted us there. He gave us that opportunity. He gave us that influence, that nobody else has the access that you have to those folks. And my goal today is to excite us again, to invite those folks to church, to share our faith with those folks. And you know, we have to slow down to see those people. I think it's not that we don't care. Certainly not. I don't think that it's even maybe lack of motivation. I think we just miss the opportunities. I think we just miss the open doors and opportunities that are there. And so we need to slow down and see the people that are around us and to respond to them the way that Jesus would respond to them. If he was looking through our eyes, what would he see and what would he do about what he saw? Our text says that he went into the cities and the villages, teaching in the synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them because they were weary and scattered, living like sheep with no shepherd. You know, the first thing this text tells us, it says when he saw the multitudes, when he saw them, he didn't just see a bunch of bodies. He didn't even just see a crowd. He didn't look at with a superficial glance like I think we often do, just a casual glance as we pass along and through life. He saw souls and he saw hearts. He looked beyond the faults. He looked beyond the facade and the appearance and the status, and he saw their needs. You know, what you notice about somebody says a lot about what's important to you. You walk down the mall and you walk past the guy selling the cell phones. What's the first thing he looks at? Your cell phone, right? In the old days when they had people who shined shoes, I guess at the airport, maybe they still do. You walk by, I remember in the airport, you walk by that shoe shine guy, he always was looking at your shoes. When you pull onto the car lot, the salesman comes out and he looks at your car. What we look at, what we notice about people says a lot about what we think is important. And in the same way, we are in the soul-winning business. That is the business of the church. That is the mission and the vision. And we need to see every person that we come in contact as a potential opportunity for Jesus to save them, to change their life, to give them new life. That's our job, our mission field. We are in that position to reach the lost for Jesus. We are the ones that he has sent to do that. We must see our relatives and our neighbors and our friends and our co-workers as people who are lost. If they don't know Jesus, that they are facing an eternity without God, and that we're in a position to help them. You know, Jesus modeled that. He modeled that in the ministry in a way that he saw people and saw their needs. But it says he was also moved with compassion for them. Now that phrase there, that Greek word is only used in the Bible to describe Jesus. That's the only place we see it, and it means stirred at the deepest level compassion. He didn't just see a man with leprosy. He felt the pain and the rejection. And we talked about that in one of our evening sermons, how he touched that leper. He didn't just see a man who had lost his daughter who had died. He saw the broken heart of a father and the sorrow and the bereavement, and he was moved with that. When you look at someone who's living their life lost and in sin, do you just see that person as a sinner, I guess you would say, and do you just repel from that, or do you see that as somebody who needs Christ? Are you moved with compassion for the bondage and the brokenness that is in their life? Do you see that in their hearts? When you see that addict, do you see someone who just makes bad choices, or do you see someone who is bound by something that they desperately want to get free from? When you see the abuse, or do you just react in anger, or do you see a broken life? Do you see with compassion? It says that Jesus had compassion for them. When you see the angry person, the depressed and the hurt, are you moved by that? William Booth started Salvation Army. The story is that one night he couldn't sleep, and so he went for a walk in the slums of London, and the rain was beating down, and at night the homeless would sleep on the street, and it just broke his heart. And when he went home, his wife said, where have you been? And he said, I've been to hell. And he saw the homeless there as more than just losers or drunks. He remembered that they were once someone's child who cared about them and loved them, that they were maybe a mother and a father, and rather than blame them for the condition that they were in and for the choices they made and just keep on walking, he decided that night that he was going to do something about it, that he was going to give them another chance to make something of themselves, and started Salvation Army. And his organization has the idea of giving people a hand up, not just a hand out. And sure, many of them, maybe most of them, they turn around, they go back to their old ways. But the compassion made a way for thousands of people to come to Christ and to see their lives change. Listen, nobody is too far gone. We can't give up on anybody. No, Jesus can reach out and can save them. And I think sometimes we as Christians, we have forgotten what it was like to be in the bondage of sin and the brokenness far away from God. But hurting lives and wounded lives are all around us. You sit with them at school, you sit with them at work, you sit with them everywhere you go. You pass them by and you see them. I think about these kids that we bring in here and the challenges that if you can just begin to get their story, and over at school sometimes the young people begin to open up to me, and the stories are amazing and staggering, and I tell you, almost every week or two I walk away thinking, man, how are they ever going to get through that? The things that they are contending with and the heartbreaks, you never know what's going on in somebody's life. You never know. You may just see somebody who's out of sorts or angry or depressed, or someone who's really not very fun to be around. And you don't know the pain, the brokenness, the abuse, the hurt, challenges we can't imagine. It's time that we as a church saw those people with real compassion and stop looking at our ministry as something that some other church or someone else in our church will do, or something that just happens up here for an hour a week on this platform, but saw ministry as a personal responsibility that every person in this church has to get out there where the people are and the action is, and to love those people, not with just the cliche, oh yes, I love you, but love them in a way that says, man, I want to see you come to Jesus. I want to see you reconnect with the church. I want to see you start a new life that will take you in another direction. So he had compassion. He saw the people. And then the text says they were weary and scattered like sheep having no shepherd. And it's the picture here of sheep without a shepherd to protect them, and that they're apart from the flock. They're scattered abroad and isolated and vulnerable. And it says he had compassion on them because they were weary. And the very religious people of the day that should have been the ones to take care of the folks and to looking out for them, the clergy, you might say, the priesthood, the church and of the day had failed them. And I think how the American church, how over the years the church itself has failed so many people, disappointed so many people. We as self-professing Christians, we have made so many mistakes and just abdicated, as it were, our role to lead the people spiritually. People are led more by Hollywood and media and popular opinion, in our culture, and the entertainment industry sets the standards, and it's changing the basic belief systems of our culture is being changed by all of these things. At any given time, there's some movie over there at the theater that has something to do with the supernatural, and we've just abdicated our role as spiritual leader, and religion has usurped relationship in so many cases. We've given up our role to be the ones that would lead this nation, lead our communities, even lead our families spiritually. And the result is that they're scattered abroad. Without Jesus, they have no direction in their life. And he saw the people that they were just scattered abroad, wandering aimlessly. Sheep will wander aimlessly for days if they have no shepherd, and they lack direction, and they're blindly following each other and wearing ruts as they go blindly about their way. Have you ever seen a time when more people are going absolutely nowhere and in an incredible raging hurry to get there? Never in society have we seen more. Just lost, wandering, no anchor, no rudder, no absolute truth in their life, seeking something, some purpose, some meaning, some sense of longing in them to count or matter, to make a difference. And the more they search, the more frantic they become. Without Jesus, life is meaningless. There is no true purpose. There's fillers and additives and things that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Deferred loneliness. There's just pushing it back briefly. But when we are broken in that basic core relationship, us to God, nothing else works. And we see here the compassion of the Savior, and we see the condition of the sheep, that they were wandering and lost. And finally, we see here the commission of the saints in verse 37. I want you to get this. Jesus changes the metaphor. He changes the metaphor. He changes from the picture, the example of the flock, to the field. And see, the flock is a picture of the fact that we need God. The sheep and the shepherd and the flock, it's a metaphor that tells us that we need God. But when he switches to the field, it's a picture of the fact that God needs us. God needs us. Listen to these words. The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest. You know, I don't know why God has chosen to spread the gospel using us. It's always an incredible thing to me to realize that Jesus entrusted the absolute most important message ever in the universe, in history, in eternity. He entrusted that into the hands of 12 guys. 12 guys, we've studied their lives. 12 guys that probably none of us would have even picked. I don't know why he has laid that burden upon us as the ones to spread the gospel, but he has. He has. There's no plan B. We're plan A, and that's it, that we are the ones. And here's the problem. It's harvest time. It's harvest time. The crops are ready. There's a world of opportunity, and there's a shortage of laborers to bring it all into the barn. There's a great harvest of people out there lost and looking for something. You know, we can talk about how hard it is to win people to Jesus. We can talk about how people have given up on the church. We can talk about all these things, but the reality is there are more people empty and searching and looking in today's time right now. And there is a sense that something big and new and different and scary is hanging on the horizon. If you're not getting that sense, you're just out of touch as we look at where our nation is at, and we look at where our government is at, and we look at where the world is at, and we see the events in the Middle East. Never before in the history of this country has the American president turned his back on Israel and allied with Iran, Persia. Never before has that happened. Things are different now. In 4 short sentences, I can string together the events that will precipitate the end. Let me tell you, folks, the harvest is plentiful. The harvest is there. There has never been a time more conducive to showing Jesus to people, to drawing them to Him, to making those connections. It says that the harvest is there, but the laborers are few. And Jesus is looking for someone who will answer that. God has called every one of us to reach our circle of influence, our group. You are called to them. I can't reach them. Someone else can't reach them. Nobody has the connections that you have. No one else can reach them. They're your group, your responsibility. God has put them in your life and in your path. And the question is, will you reach out to them? Will you share the gospel? Will you invite them to come to church with you? Will you harvest the field? A small church on the U.S. East Coast, a pastor delivered a sermon on the sacredness of life. And after the service, a German man who had lived in Nazi Germany told of his experience. He said, "I lived in Germany during the Nazi Holocaust, and I considered myself a Christian." Have you ever thought about the church in Germany during World War II? Here's a man talking about this. He said, "I considered myself a Christian," and we heard the stories as he recounts this of what was happening to the Jews, but we tried to distance ourselves from it because we told ourselves, what could anybody do to stop it? And a railroad track ran behind our small church, and each Sunday morning we could hear the whistle in the distance, and we'd hear the wheels coming on the tracks, and we became disturbed because when we heard the cries coming from the trains as they passed by, we realized that they were carrying Jews like cattle in cars, that they were carrying them to their death. And so week after week the whistle would blow, and we dreaded to hear it, the sound of those wheels, because we knew that we would hear the cries of the Jews en route to the death camp, and their screams tormented us. So we knew the time that the train came past our church, and when we heard the whistle blow in the distance, we would begin to sing hymns. And by the time that the train came past our church, we were singing at the top of our voices. We heard the screams. We sang more loudly, and soon we heard them no more. This man said, "Years have passed and no one talks about it anymore, but I still hear the train whistle in my sleep. God forgive me," he said. "Forgive us all who called ourselves Christians and yet did nothing." Stand with me as the musicians come. See, there are people all around us in a similar situation as those Jews on those train cars, in that they're on their way to an eternal death. People all around us. Do we really make that connection? Jamie, if you would play "This Is My Desire." Do we make that connection that that person is a living soul? They will live forever. They will either live as a wondrous, glorious being in the wonders of heaven, or they will live forever as a tortured creature in the horrors of hell. To understand that every one of us is on our way to eternity. that they're on their way someplace? Are we like those German Christians, singing our hymns so loud that it quiets the guilt and drowns out the sounds of those that are headed for an eternity without Jesus? As heads are bowed and eyes are closed,